Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for those people who have their natal north node in the 12th house and or in the sign of Pisces. If you have both, you get a gold star because you must really be into what the 12th house represents. And I will get into that in a few minutes. I just wanted to go over a couple of things first. And one of them is that I want to give a shout out to a website that's been very helpful in researching for this topic. KarenMBlack.com, a woman who looks like she specializes in karmic astrology. And she made a statement referencing Edgar Cayce, a psychic from the earlier part of the 1900s and a big influence on me that really resonated. She wrote here, clairvoyant Edgar Cayce said that the real value of astrology is understanding our cycles of soul growth, not prediction. And even though I personally also talk about transits, so you could say that's prediction, I don't really even like to call it that. I like to say the astrological trends because I want to keep it very open-ended. I feel that when you say prediction, this is going to happen, not only may it not happen, might it not happen, but also it encourages people to see their lives as something happening to them, not something that they have any hand in. And I think that that is not only misleading, but it can be very disempowering. So I'm glad that he spoke about the cycles of growth, and that would be to me the evolution or the expansion that we experience when we live life intentionally. And so basically, when she's talking about the north and south nodes in general, she's and she made a point of saying not only the sign but the house, and that's why it's important if you're listening for one to also listen for the other, because they're both going to be valid in this particular instance. And she talks about the north node as, your soul's mission. Now, what is your soul's mission? Or what does that represent? Well, it's what is going to expand your soul. What is going to make it more than what it is right now? And if we think that if we believe that our souls are eternal, then there has to be something else that goes along with that. Eternal growth, right? I mean, and what causes growth? New experiences, right? If you keep on doing the same old, you're going to stagnate. And this is what the South Node represents. She says, your South Node represents your karmic past. It's your Achilles heel and an energetic bucket of people, habits, situations, and karma from past lifetimes that you're here to resolve. It also represents the talents you're here to carry forward. So this is the conundrum, because you are going to have certain talents that you bring into this lifetime. And are you supposed to turn your back on them? I don't think so. But you cannot rest on your laurels. You cannot just stay in your comfort zone of what is familiar and what comes easy to you. I mean, you can, but if you want to really grow, you're going to have to move in new directions. And, while I agree with her on a lot of things, I do believe that we should take the sun into consideration for part of this life purpose. She says, while your sun represents how you achieve and radiate your personality, your north and south nodes represent the growth of your soul. And I personally believe that the sun is our aspirational self. So it is going to be our desires and our goals that we set in this lifetime. And that is naturally going to impact our personality. It's going to impact what our interests are. And I think it can be very valid when looking at the North Node as well. I don't think that there's any kind of a separation there in terms of, or any kind of a conflict there. I think that both are important partners in this. So I'm going to start to talk about the 12th house and about Pisces and what that represents. One of the interesting things is that she mentions the soul color of the North Node in Pisces as being lavender, which is really interesting because that's a shade of purple that I have always been attracted to. And some of you may feel the same if you have this. I don't have the North Node in the 12th house, nor in Pisces, but lavender is a lighter shade of purple, and that is connected to the 7th chakra, I believe. So it's the highest of the 7 major chakras. And I'm trying to see here if she mentions the 12th house. She seems to be talking about Pisces specifically. But I have seen other sites that combine the two, and so that's what I'm going to do. And I think you'll still be very accurate if you listen for the 12th house. Now, in past lifetimes, because we're going to look at the opposite house, the 6th house, which is an earth house, it's the house that Virgo rules, that can indicate the kind of things that you used to do. So you may have been in the medical industry, a doctor, a nurse. You may have been somebody who was very sacrificial for your patients. The 6th house is also the house of pets. So there can be somebody who is very intuitive with animals, and maybe even like a veterinarian or healing, healing or somehow connected to animals in general. Virgo is a sign of discrimination, being able to analyze a situation and judge it as being, something that is valuable, worthy of your attention. And there is also a perfectionism associated with Virgo that can affect the person with the North Node in the 12th house. Because again, we're talking about that South Node karmic influence that could be seeping into your life and you're not even aware of it. I haven't seen anything in here, but I want to just give my own impressions about the North Node in the 12th house. I wouldn't be surprised if some people with this position feel a vague sense of longing for something that they can't put their finger on, because the 12th house is the house of past lives. It's the house of the mystical side of life. In the mundane world, we could call it hermitages. I was thinking about this earlier, and now I can't think of the word, like monasteries and things like that, where a person is alone. The 12th house is a house of solitude. It's the house of penance. So, monasteries, I think the monks atoning for their sins, are they not? I don't know. But prisons, hospitals, places of suffering are also associated with the 12th house. So that can be an attraction in one way or the other. And but the bottom line is it's also the mystical experience, the kind of the merging of the soul into the Atman, the like the just the higher spiritual planes, or we can say it the spiritual dimensions in general. And because Neptune rules this house, the 12th house, there's like a dissolving, there's not boundaries. And so fantasy, reality are one. Well, reality is probably not even existent in this place, but there's this sense of otherworldliness, and it's a dream state, is this house, the subconscious, unconscious mind. And so when we think of the soul's mission, there are people who from a very young age know what they came here to do. And it's important to note that the soul's mission isn't necessarily going to be connected to your career. It could be, might not be. But it is going to be a strong urge. And you're going to feel like you have to do this thing. You're going to feel compelled. She puts it, I didn't, this is just something I remember from reading from, the last reading I did for this, that she said something about after the age of 30 of this becoming more in the forefront, the North Node influence. And I'm assuming she means because of the Saturn, the first Saturn return, which occurs in your late 20s, around 30, something like that. And which I believe is a form of individuation from the family of origin, from the past influences, not fully. Sometimes, the influences from the family are present later on, continuing throughout your 30s, 40s, and even beyond that. But it can be a lessening of that and a clearer vision of yourself as an individual. So maybe that's what she is alluding to. And so you really feel like I am an individual and I have this particular path. And yes, my parents wanted me to be a doctor, but I know that I came here to be a monk. So, some people, if you think about some of these saints, they had visions. I could see that for somebody who has the North Node in the 12th house, where they feel compelled at a young age to pray, to, do spiritual practices. Maybe their families were not even encouraging of this. I remember seeing this movie a few years ago called about Saint Bernadette. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. I can't remember the proper title. I think it was called Vision of Saint Bernadette. I'm not sure, but it was very interesting. It was very inspiring. And, sometimes these people, I think a lot of times these saints, they had these experiences from the time they were very, very young. And they inspired their villages, they healed people, and they just lived this completely, you could call it a sacrificial life. And it was just who they were. And I'm not saying that this is going to be true for everyone, but for some people, this may be their fantasy. This may be the thing that they've always wanted to do. And even if they are discouraged from dropping out of the world, so to speak, they may pick it up at a later date. I don't know how many people become nuns when they are middle-aged, or Buddhist monks, but I'm sure that there are some people who do end up in that place. And as a matter of fact, I think it is the Hindu tradition to be a householder during the fertile years where you're raising a family, and then go off and, really immerse yourself in God. But this is, and I suppose there could be some people with the North Node or Pisces in the North Node or in the 12th house, or the North Node in Pisces, who feel compelled to become mystics. But for some, it can be like a person who is dedicated to a religious order, but also is out in the world and helping other people. So it's not just about that self-development, but about more of and this would be a form of self-development, but more in a public kind of a way. There is an urge when you have especially in the 12th house, I would say, if you have the North Node in the 12th house, to have that solitude. So whether it's very much a part of your life, or that you're guaranteed at least a portion of your day, or at a certain point in your life that you can, aspire to that type of a lifestyle. I think that would be a running theme. And let me see if she says anything specifically. Well, she talks about be careful about perfectionism, because that's coming from the South Node, and that you're going to have some of those qualities of Virgo, like organization, physical health, understanding health, and paying attention to details. But some of the shadow side is that you have to be careful of the perfectionism, the kind of being anal about your routine. The 6th house can be routine. So for those who have their North Node in the opposite house or in the opposite sign, be careful that you're not too rigid with that, because that's not what this is about. And also workaholism. Virgo, the 6th house is a house of work, so you have to do that. And part of perfectionism, she talks about fear of making a mistake. And I really think that aspect of perfectionism is a big one, because maybe because I have the moon in Virgo, and I know that can really create limitations with a person, where they don't try enough to be able to just venture out and risk failure, risk criticism, risk ridicule even, So the, she's really into like this idea of like wearing the color that the soul, wearing lavender in this case, to bring in these qualities. And in terms of how to act, being somebody who is forgiving, somebody who, Pisces is associated with compassion and reflective, practicing introspection, not just like living on the surface of life, but really kind of a contemplative type of life that we associate with the hermits and all these things. Creativity. So, expressing your spirit through some art form. And, having faith versus being too much in the mind and analyzing, which is kind of that Virgo tendency, because Virgo is ruled by Mercury and all that. And also, Virgo is an earth sign, so it really wants that tangible proof. And this is the opposite of that. And it's important to say here that it's okay to have a balance. I'm not saying that everything should be all mystical and all this stuff, but not to emphasize that South Node, which is so familiar, but to kind of change things up. And this idea of understanding that perhaps life is happening as it should, and that it is unfolding in a very particular way, and to trust in the process of it. And I want to just briefly talk about particular signs where this may be something that you have to really deal with. I mean, sun signs, I should say. So if your sun, for instance, is in Capricorn, and you have the North Node in Pisces or in the 12th house, you're going to be somebody who, because you're very ambitious, may feel like this, between a rock and a hard place. And you have to honor both sides of yourself. I do feel that our sun is, at least on the mundane level, what we came here to express through various achievements, goals that we can achieve on the worldly level, on the earth plane. And that the North Node is important for our spiritual attainment. That doesn't mean that one has to cancel out the other. And so you're going to have to be more conscious of it, because you may feel a sense of frustration being an earth sign and wanting these tangible symbols of success, and even just wanting success, and then feeling like it's not enough, and feeling like these vague longings for something more. And, you might be tempted to feel unsatisfied because you haven't figured out what your soul's mission is. And I feel like because a sign like Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, that sometimes it may have a delayed effect, and you have to believe that eventually you'll get there. But Capricorn usually wants to, call the shots and make it happen on their own time, instead of accept that maybe they have to go through a bunch of things first in order to feel comfortable enough to explore other sides of life. If your sun sign is in Pisces, then I think that it is wise to remember the Virgo qualities even more so that you can stay grounded, so that you're not too far out in the ether, and that you forget about how to function in a practical way. And if somebody has an air sign, which would be an air sign, sun sign, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. And I think Aquarius, I would probably I would exempt from this, because I think Aquarius has that naturally intuitive side. But I would say definitely for Gemini and Libra, don't try to overthink things. The Virgo side may seem very comfortable for you to reside in, and you may identify much more with that than the abstract spiritual kind of influences. And yet, you were born with this position, so it is something to embrace, but you're going to have to leave that tendency to analyze everything behind and be willing to immerse yourself in something that may feel irrational, may seem like it has, no boundaries and no form, no form, but it really is what your soul is craving and what it came here to experience. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this was informative. If you would like a private reading, I do life path readings where I incorporate the North Node and also looking at what house it's in and other factors, and I have other types of readings. Please check the link below for that. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.